Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Balance or Hustle Live, where we learn to grow, create, and enjoy success together. I'm your host, Miss Ashley ESQ, and today we will be discussing finding your voice as a Black woman with our very special guest, Sophia Lovasz. Lovasz. Sophia is the founder and CEO of a company called Simply Visibility, where she focuses on the expertise of blending storytelling and product-based businesses. She is director of retail sales and entrepreneurship with Local First. In addition to that, she is also a coach and a mentor as well. Please join me in welcoming our guest, Sophia. Welcome, Sophia.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
Well, it's great for you to be here as well. Thank you so much. I hope I did not butcher your last name. If I did, please correct. Is it Lovasz?
It's Lovasz, not at
Okay.
all. It's Hungarian, so you did well.
Okay, I was worried about that, but I'm happy that I got it. So welcome, and it's so great to have you. We've been planning this for some time, and Sophia, to me, in addition to knowing Sophia professionally, she was actually one of my coaches and mentors. So I actually cherish Sophia in those ways. Sophia has effective feeling more like a big sister type vibe in working with her, which I definitely appreciate. And so, so many conversations that we had, but the topic is finding your voice as a Black woman. And I think that together we can definitely unravel this topic and definitely drop some diamonds for our audience to definitely pick up. So, Sophia, question: what are some of the biggest challenges for Black women in finding their voice?
Black women face so much discrimination in their lives,
Uh-huh.
especially in the workplace, that you're trying to balance appearing in a certain way uh,
Right.
while also trying to stay true to yourself.
Okay.
And, and the more you can't be yourself, the more stress and health related issues are put upon you and burdens.
Okay. Okay. And I think that that's completely accurate because as a Black woman, I think for years, and now we're seeing some shifts, but and they're subtle. They're not what it should be, and not what we really what we need to see. And certainly, when we were growing up, there wasn't anything we can identify with. Would you agree?
Yes, the representation was so minimal, and the glass ceiling was even lower for us.
Right, right, right. So I definitely agree. I mean, when I would think one of the components in finding your voice also relates to, um, the representation, as little as the dolls that you play with, or your favorite television show, and your favorite television show, the dolls that you play with, and um, just the makeup of your community, right? Who you see in advertisement. I think all of that plays a part in um, the struggle that maybe some Black women or many Black women may have in identifying and finding their voice.
Oh, absolutely. And you start to emulate what environment you're in more
Hmm.
so. So if you're not seeing representation of Black women in these
Right.
different spaces, you're starting to incorporate the behaviors of other people that you've seen.
Mm, right.
And when you go to the workplace and you meet other Black women, we have something called code switching, but
Right.
you're constantly looking over your shoulder to see who might have recognized that you switched. Like, who is that woman? Why was she acting differently, around certain type of people than with other types of people? And that's where it comes from, like what the representation was around you when you were growing up during your impressionable age.
Right. Right. I think that that's very important. So code switching. So is that like when you're around a certain group? So you're saying when you're around a certain group of people, you maybe assimilate and act more like maybe what they expect of you or who they expect for you to be. And then when you're around, let's say, another set of friends, or whether it's at work, you're a completely different person. Like for some people, they might say, "Hey, you're acting brand new," right? Like who's that?
Yeah, yeah. And you know what? It's exhausting, right?
Right.
Because you're trying to keep up with this, and neither of those two worlds is your actual self. And you get
Okay.
you get lost in that.
Right, Right. No, I think that that's really really good because I think that's a lot of our reality. A lot
Hmm.
of a lot of our reality. And I understand though. I think at work in comparison to who you are with your friends, I think you should be two different people.
Oh,
Right.
absolutely. You know what? We're always battling. We always have different identities depending on who our audience is. And we are
Right.
slightly different as a son to our parents, right? As we
Right.
are with our friends or with a teacher or with a coworker or the boss.
Right.
We're different versions of ourselves. But if we can't really capture our essence, that remains the same, right? Our character remains the same. Our moral standing remains the same. Um,
Right.
but we're still pretending to be someone completely different sometimes at the workplace, specifically because we are seen as the stereotypes, right? The
Right.
loud mad black woman, the
Right.
whatever those microaggressions that we've been receiving, then we play into that because we don't want to be labeled, so we minimize being ourselves so that we fit into these places. These people are in control of our incomes too, right? We want to get
Mhm.
promoted. We want to we make everybody around us be more comfortable, but
Right.
at what cost?
Mm. I like that you said that when we work to make everyone feel more comfortable with us or us being in the room, but we're losing ourselves in the process, is what I hear. Like
Yeah,
we're the most uncomfortable person in the room while we're making everyone else comfortable with us being there. That's deep. Don't you think that's like really
it's really deep, and unfortunately, we're really good at hiding it, and it's really unhealthy. It eats away at us.
right? Right. No, I think that's excellent. I think that's really good. Yeah, I think in corporate, I think that's pretty common. I mean, and I think wow, I think that's really good. There's just so many things that I have to like. I think we just need to stay here for a minute because that's
Oh yeah.
really yeah. Because I think we lose ourselves in the process of making other people comfortable with us being in the room, but in the process, we can't identify our own voice and we can't speak our truth because
Yeah.
we're afraid of who we're going to make uncomfortable in the process,
Yep.
um, or like you said, and then the result of that may feel like, hey, I may not have my job opportunity, or I'm going to lose some type of
Yeah.
future financial or beneficial opportunity, or just beneficial opportunity for my career if I just speak my truth. Um,
I mean, one time I remember an executive told me to wear my hair down. Some very subtle things. And this was like 20 years ago. So
mhm.
at the time, I didn't think anything of it. But looking around at what the other women looked like, what that executive was telling me was that I can be more acceptable if I look and sound like everyone else. So everything down to the language that you use and your tonation.
Right, right. So this is really good because you often find that there's a lot of black women who's been able to bust through corporate America, go through corporate America and rise to high ranks, but at what exchange? Right?
Hmm.
And it sounds like not everyone, right? But it sounds like it might be an exchange of losing your voice and you're having to be someone that you're really not, that you're not even comfortable with being during the process of it. But I have a similar story in working not in corporate well, it wasn't in corporate because I was an independent contractor, but working, I've been told to, just be more like us, things that were like, I mean, basically the same thing, but like correcting me from standing on my truth and correcting me um, from elevating my voice in a professional way, kind of putting me back in my line. You're a nice girl, and I think you're heading in the wrong direction. Especially
Oh,
when
yeah.
you're speaking out about some of the social and economic issues that we are experiencing within the minority and Black communities. It's like, no, we're not ready to have that conversation. Just stay in line. And so I absolutely I've experienced that. Um,
Yeah. The stay in
and
line conversation is so deep because I've received feedback from other Black women
uh huh.
in how I've decided to show up on social media as myself.
Right.
And it's hurtful to hear that because their intentions come from a great place. But I had an executive tell me, a Black woman tell me, I wish I could behave how you behave on social media, but I can't do that because I meet with executives all day.
Hmm.
And And it was interesting because I too meet with executives all day behaving the way that I behave, which is my authentic self.
Right.
But what she was saying was that perhaps the white executives that she meets with would not find that behavior acceptable. And there's a lot to unpack there. I am at a point where I've owned my identity and my space so much so that I actually don't want to work with people who can't accept me for who I am. But it took a lot of work to get there.
Right, right. No, I think that's really good. So 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 just yeah, so you're saying it's taking a lot of work. What are some of the things that I know you talked about some of your experiences, but what are some of the things that sometimes sometimes like what happened in life where it's like, you know what, I've, I'm here, I'm in this job, or, maybe I'm no longer with this job, or my next move is going to be my best move. And
Yeah.
this is the direction that I'm going. So what happened in your life to bring you to this point in identifying, um, uh, you know, learning yourself, or just being more comfortable to let the world know exactly who you are and what that looks
Yeah.
like.
So when I was growing up, my parents are from Haiti.
Uh-huh.
And growing up in the 80s in Miami, Florida, that was like a negative thing for people to know about you. So I hid my Haitian heritage from people for a really long time. And that stuck with me through my adulthood. And then I'd say around 30 years old, which was only 12 years ago for me, having kids in a mixed race family household. My husband's Hungarian. It became more and more important for me to share my heritage with them. Besides, they know that their grandparents are from Haiti as well. And I just started to realize, like, what am I so ashamed about? What
Hmm.
was holding me back from completely being myself is not wanting to disappoint my parents. My dad really wanted me to become a lawyer. And up until that point, he believed that I was going to go to law school still and do that. And it came to a head one day where I told him, I was like, you know what, even if I became a lawyer, it would not be the traditional attorney that you're thinking of for me. I would still be helping small businesses just with my attorney knowledge. And that kind of set me free on a path to it was like created a momentum. It's like, where else am I holding back? Because I was holding back with my family. Now they know my true intentions. Okay, I'm kind of holding back myself at work as well. So I started showing up on social media, and I stopped being afraid of what could happen if I start selling myself and building a personal brand. And guess what? I had the haters, I had the well-intentioned mentors, but at the end of the day, it attracted opportunities to me. People resonated with my story. They resonated with my struggle because I was sharing everything. And it helped me really understand that, wow, the way to attract opportunities to you is for you to first accept who you are in all aspects and own your identity. And it took work, but with enough practice of showing up as myself, it became easier.
Wow, wow. So you identified the haters. What did that look like in your
Oh yeah,
process?
it looked like direct messages on Instagram. You should take this video down. Or it looked like comments on my videos, like, you're never gonna go far doing this, or you're not funny,
Mm.
or and hey, I at first that used to hurt my feelings. I used to try to measure my success through vanity metrics, how many likes I was getting, how many shares I was getting, how many followers I was getting. And then I realized that people are hurting inside, and they project that hurt in the way that they interact with you. And now
Right,
I don't take it as personal.
right, right. And that's a lot of the hate we feel is really, is directed towards us, but it's more about them than it really is us, right?
Yeah.
So so do you feel like in your um emancipation of your voice as a black woman, do you feel like did you feel like has it become easier, like 2020, it was all this, we saw this big boom in diversity, equity, and inclusion. We saw so much happen where it was like kind of shame on America,
Yeah.
for waiting hundreds of years before ever really addressing the true issues of this country. And still, it's still a lot of work to be done. But do you feel like it was easier? And I don't know at what point, you felt like in finding your voice, but do you feel like it was easier as during that time to,
Oh, wow.
the timing, I don't know what time
Yeah.
it was, but I'm just
Yeah.
going back where it was just like, I know a lot of people that I'm close to just like, forget it. This is who I am. Your life
Yes,
is,
that happened to me too.
and
2020 was it for me. I
mm,
wanted the company that I was working for at the time to take a stance on anti-racism. And I
right.
made a comment in a public forum within our company intranet, and it was crickets. And I
Mm,
realized, I was like, that not only is disgusting and cowardly, but um, more Black women need to show up in digital spaces so that we can motivate and inspire other Black women to break free and do the same. And so
right.
2020 was it for me. That's when I started practicing in front of the camera. I started using Snapchat so I could practice posting videos and it goes away in 24 hours. But yeah, 2020, that was mine.
Yeah, I think 2020 became easier for a lot of people just to make a stand. I mean, because it was the line was, it was, there was almost no gray space during that
Yeah.
time.
And you know
It
what?
was
People still didn't get it. Those companies claiming DEI and belonging, they still didn't get it. In 2021, I had administrators bullying me and harassing
Mhm.
me. And when I expressed that that was happening, I had HR come and tell me that I need to change my tone.
Hmm.
So
Wow.
they, well, in the same breath, having task force that, talked about
Mhm.
racial disparities and diversity in the company and things like that.
Right, right, right. Wow. No, I totally get it. I think one of our last conversations with one of our past guests, we talked about how 2020 ignited a flame of, diversity, equity, and inclusion. But the reality is that today, a lot of those opportunities and spaces, no one's talking about it. No one's holding these companies accountable anymore. And so they're going back into their comfort zone and
Yeah.
their old habits and exactly everything that we have known for them to do in the past. Because we've been experiencing a lot of cutbacks within those opportunities, within those jobs, the diversity, equity, and inclusion, those where the cutbacks are happening.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, um, no,
Companies
I
need
think
to learn. These people behind the companies, they haven't learned how to sit with being uncomfortable. Like
mm,
how we do that, right?
right.
They don't know how to be uncomfortable.
Right, right. No, that's very true. And I think everyone else, right, that they're expecting everyone else to be uncomfortable. They're not willing to make, I get willing to make the adjustments that's necessary for the inclusion and belonging that
Yeah.
they want everyone else to believe who
Yeah.
they
The timeline that they set when they set up these programs like ERGs, for example,
are. Hmm.
that they're going to tackle the diversity problem at a company. In that timeline, they need to include a point where it says "get uncomfortable."
Right,
Seems to be
right.
missing on their roadmap.
Right, right. And I don't think they're willing to make the adjustments long enough to even for it to become a part of their culture identity for them to be uncomfortable. First opportunity, it sounds like a lot of them are just slipping back into their old habits. Um, what do you think about? I know recently there was a law put in place to where a company couldn't identify or discriminate against you based on your hair, and this is big for us
Yeah. The Crown
as
Act.
women of color, because sometimes you just want to wear a wash and go, and the wash and go doesn't look like this,
Right.
right?
Right.
The wash and go might have, you might have a mini fro or some type of, curly hairstyle that doesn't look straight and down, and the processes that we do. But what do you think about that? That was actually recent in
Yeah.
our
And
communities,
it's
and
so
we're stepping up
surprising.
everywhere.
It's so surprising that that even needs to be a law. And that should speak volumes to these companies that need a law to tell them that, right?
Right.
Because in elementary and middle schools, the athletes in those schools are still getting discriminated against because they have dreads.
Mm,
And so these things are so nuanced and honestly embarrassing that we have to have a law in place that regulates the type of hairstyle that people can wear, and specifically Black women, because that's who it's
Right.
affecting.
Oh, that's exactly who it's affecting, and black men, like with the
Yeah.
dread issue
Yes.
as well. Um, and you know, like the biggest issue is, well, we're just wearing our hair in our natural state, right? And you
It's a
know, so
problem for us to just exist.
right, and that's it. And so it's just like, okay, well now I have to straighten it or do this to it you know, straighten it, or what is it, fried, dyed, and laid to the
Yeah.
side in order to
Also,
be
we
accepted.
have such a different in cultural approaches, right? Like
Mhm.
maybe in some cultures, like in the American culture, hair doesn't really play a big role, but in the Black culture, it does play a big part. It's a part of our culture, in
Right,
and how we show up in spaces. Our hair tells lots of stories,
right,
and just recognizing that it is okay that we are different and that we show up in the same spaces differently. That needs to be embraced.
right, right. No, no, I absolutely. And even too, we're talking about hair, but I remember reading something where Jay-Z was saying, you know, I go into the boardrooms and I don't switch up my voice to sound different, or, you know, soften my voice to um to make everyone else in the room comfortable. And I actually love that he said that, because oftentimes we see that, right? Where it's just like your voice is, you know, the pitch and the elevation and, you know, changes depending on your environment. But I actually was really happy that he said that. You know, as a black man, he's owning his truth as a black man, and however the depths of his voice is just that, and you just have to accept it. Right.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
doesn't change the value of the contract. It doesn't change the value of the negotiation or the conversation. You know, if there's any shortcomings in the individual that on the recipient, you just got to learn to deal with it, because this is just my truth as a black man. I mean, that's what I get when I
Yeah,
heard that.
no, same. And you know what? I think that's a great point, person to bring up because he spent years building his own personal brand
Yeah,
before the term personal brand existed, right?
right,
And that's what that comes with, that type of confidence
right,
to show up as yourself.
right, right. So I know, in owning your identity, let's just do a quick recap. So understanding, you know, your truth, you know, understanding where you come from, and being okay with it. And actually, I'll say this: I was watching a girl on YouTube, and she was on break, and she was eating roti. Um, and so she goes on to say, you know, back in the day, working in Soho, I would have never brought roti to work. You know, I would have been ashamed to bring it to work, and I would have never brought it to work, because here I am in Soho with all, you know, with whoever, you know, all these other professionals, and I would have hit that part about my culture. Today, you know, it is what it is. I'm having roti for lunch. I might even offer you some, or maybe not, because it's so good, right? And I want it all to myself. But I love that she said that, because you can actually see the growth and even her own struggles,
Yeah.
and who she is, and who she has become in her struggles of the past, and how even as a woman of the Caribbean, she felt suppressed in America, and actually in a city like New York, to, you know, hide her culture. As diverse as New York is, she felt
Mhm.
that was necessary, and I was like, wow, you
And
know,
so much of that comes from the students that she went to school with making fun of those types of things. These She picked up on these subtle ways
right,
that, and that comes from the households that those students
right.
were in, and the lack of diversity and representation on TV and in toys and in everything else that they saw around them.
Right. Right. No, I absolutely agree. I absolutely agree. I think it's all of the above. I think it's everything that you mentioned, from school to the representation from the people that she's been around, and how they've made her feel about her truth and her diversity and her culture. And so, definitely important. But I loved how you owned it and you moved forward. I would definitely say, and I'll say the same thing, as just a little fun facts about me for the audience. I know you guys are learning more about me every episode, because I share a little bit more. Um, you know, grew up in a black family, a black American family, but actually grew up in a suburban area, to where I was like one of maybe 100. right? And so we were actually the only Black family in our neighborhood.
Okay.
And so, and you know, if we were walking or jogging, like we were the only ones there. You know, they could probably pick out exactly where we lived because there were no other Black families within our community. And so I actually went to ASU, and ASU, when I went to ASU, I don't know all of the demographics and the numbers of what it is today, but I remember sitting in a class of like 500, and there were about four other individuals that were Black, and it was a mixture of male, co-ed, male and females, maybe about four or five, but there wasn't a lot of us. And so
Mhm.
that was actually familiar to me because I went to a system or a program or life prior to going to college that was we were very limited as far as diversity. And so definitely definitely making sure and coming from a community like that, there's not a lot of um strong culture that embraces the Black community because there's no one there to promote it or to establish it. And so there wasn't a lot of um diverse activities or diverse organizations. Actually, I think I started at my high school. I started like a step club, and then all the Black girls joined. Right? It wasn't a lot of us, but the ones we started a step club to help create that environment, to create those diverse experiences that maybe we saw on television, or maybe you know what? I'll speak even more precise. Maybe we saw like on Moesha or
Mhm.
some other type of show or things that we have experienced or things that we know that maybe our cousins who lives in the city and this is what they're doing, right?
Yeah.
And so that's a little bit about me and my experience, but I think that this is a really good topic because I think a lot of us struggle. And I think as we elevate, I think it's so important to make sure as we elevate in life and whatever community we decide to raise our children, that we give them the culture and the value and help them stay strong in their voice and their truth
Mhm.
as they grow because we know how important it is. And I think my parents did a good job of that. And I think once I got on my own as an adult, I think I grew more in my
Mhm.
own voice and identity and as a Black woman. Um, so you mentioned personal branding and how your brand aligns with how your voice aligns with your personal brand, right? So in your voice is your truth, is your storytelling, you know, whether eh, that relates to your individual culture, that relates to your experiences just as a Black woman in America and all of that. But that becomes your personal brand.
Oh yeah, and I posted something a year ago on LinkedIn that went viral, and it was about how unprofessional I had been the first 41 years of my life,
Oh,
and it listed out what I considered to be unprofessional based on the
okay.
standard of professionalism. And then I went into what makes me professional, and it had nothing to do with the standard of professionalism. What makes me professional is me standing in my truth and showing up as myself proudly. So, in my personal branding, being my silly, goofy, funny, and uplifting self is non traditional in a professional setting.
Mhm.
But being all of those things and showcasing that attracted business opportunities to me.
Right.
And it attracted people who want to be that way for themselves and want to learn how to let go and accept themselves more.
Wow. Wow. Okay. Um, so I keep up with you on social media, and we're gonna drop her social media so you guys can see exactly what she's talking about. Um, like you're a lot of fun on social media. Like I'm scrolling through reels, and all of a sudden Sophia's like dancing and just having a good time, or just a lot of fun, or just saying something that just kind of gets is funny and it kind of gets you thinking at the same time. So good content. I love
Thank
your
you.
content.
Thank you. Thank
Um,
you.
and so so you're saying like, and even the the breakout of you and owning your identity and just just being your fun, silly, fun loving self, you've been able to attract brand deals.
Yeah. So to back up a little bit, I was in collegiate retail for 20 years, selling spirit merchandise at college universities.
Okay.
And in 2020, I was at the Arizona State University bookstores.
Oh, okay.
So on LinkedIn, I would wear the clothes that we're selling
Mhm.
and do trending dances or just like uplifting dances to high techno music type of things. And it would drive traffic to our website. So I started to recognize that even though LinkedIn still presents as a very corporate-y, dry, mild place
Uh-huh.
where it becomes an extension of your workplace, but online, there was an audience that was waiting to be uplifted in the middle of their day with some nice music. And oh, she happens to be selling clothes from where I went to school. Let me go support her. And
Right.
in doing so, I grew a following of people who just liked me.
Yeah.
And it didn't really matter what I was selling. But if you happened to be an ASU alum, you were like, oh, can I get that on the website?
Mm.
And so that is where my personal brand started. I recognize social media to be a very negative place. So I wanted to put out more positivity. And so I just blended that need to be more positive and be funny for people and uplifting with whatever my job is, right? Which at the
Mhm.
time was selling spirit merchandise, and blended the two together. But that has also led to other areas. I built an audience on TikTok. It's got about 95,000 followers now of my experience in the autonomous taxis that we have here in Phoenix.
Right.
My personality is in those videos as well, but it attracted every like news. I've been on every news station. I've had an article in Mashable, CNN, radio shows. The CEO of Waymo came to my home and we did a ride along together. And this is a Google owned company. And none of that would have happened if I wasn't willing to put myself out there and with my personality.
Mhm. I think that that's important. I think oftentimes, also with owning your voice, a lot of times you feel like you have to be confined to just the box, right? And then like you can't be yourself, you can't smile too much unless they won't take you too seriously, or
Yeah,
you
yeah,
can't have fun, you can't be, the life of the party or just who you are. And I love that you have done a really good job of building your brand, maintaining your professionalism, and having fun at the same time. And I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna post Sophia's information at the bottom so you guys will see exactly what I'm talking about. But it's all of that in one, and it's just good content. It's just a good time. It's just really, really positive, and it is very uplifting. Like, I'm like, what did she just say? Let me rewind that. Let me watch that again. Did she just say that? And sometimes I'll comment, and just kind of get the conversation going. But I love that, because I think oftentimes we feel like we have to be very buttoned up. And I'll say this about even the legal profession. I mean, even more so, we feel like we have to be very buttoned up for our clients and how they view us in representation. We want them to believe that, maybe we're stern and we're a stern advocate, and we're tough. And as women, we feel that even more so, that we have to present ourselves as tough. And so a lot of times we take down from our femininity as a woman to wear certain things that may not be that may be very uncomfortable for us,
yeah.
right? And so I think that that's the truth. A lot of the times we may change our voice in order to be perceived as however they feel like we should be perceived as a woman, and then also as a woman of color for our clients. And then let's say if you're in court, of course, the jury and the judge. Um, and then oftentimes it's just so many different components. So I think even professional women, and then at me as an attorney, I think we experience this every single hour of our day. And a lot of times it just keeps us in a box where we can't look fun, we can't show our humor and our personality, because it makes us look weak as women.
Yeah,
uh,
and this is why representation is so important,
right.
because we've been conditioned that the male way of being an attorney, for example, and the
Right.
look and sound is the most credible,
Hmm.
because of that's what we saw in media on
Right.
crime shows. That's what we were always surrounded by.
Right. Right. Matlock, right?
Mhm,
Like all the
mhm.
court
And Perry
shows.
Mason. Yep. I
And
grew up
all
on
the
Perry
court shows.
Mason and Madlock. Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
It
Exactly.
wasn't until what, Olivia Pope, where we started to find a little bit
Okay.
more.
Yep.
Yeah, but then we have someone like, for instance, like Hillary. Clinton, she wears pantsuits. I actually prefer wearing dresses. So that's all a part of even our voice as women. And I know as women of color, it goes deeper than that, right? Because we bring our culture and ways that some people may not be able to understand with us as a woman and then a woman of color into the corporate place. So yeah, absolutely. I think this is this is all good conversation, and I know our audience is enjoying it because this is what we go through on a day to day. And I'll tell you, it's definitely a struggle for me in the way that I present myself, because I do want my clients to see me as someone that's professional, that can handle their matter. um me wearing bright lipstick, for some people that may be unprofessional, and there's still judges today that you may know, you might find a little bit more favor with this judge because he's so old school and tradition. If you wear opaque stockings, or if you come in a suit or a black suit, or that's just his way. That's just the
Wow.
unspoken rule about a particular judge and how his courtroom is ran. So this is something that we deal with day in and day out, not just 30 years ago, but even today in 2023.
That is very layered, what you just said. What kind
Unpack
of
it.
real problems that people in authority have. Wow.
Right, right, right. Even, I mean, it's very similar though to the boss saying, like, straighten your hair.
Yep. Oh, very, very much so, because you're not that's not the time and place to now have an impassioned speech about why that doesn't matter, how that doesn't change the value that you bring to the table.
Right, right, definitely. So I think all of that is excellent. Um, and then I know, um, and I love how I love too how you can to you develop, and I said this before, how you can be yourself. And this is something even on social media that I struggle with. Like, am I gonna make myself look less you know, less able or capable of representing my clients? Like I said, if I show myself in too much of a fun way. And so, even with content, you might go over it, you might ask for a second opinion. What do you think about this? How do you think about this? But I love that you found your voice, and you have secured some very notable brands. You've had the CEO at your house, and then you've acquired a massive following and a growing following that's grown to love you and your truth. Um, and then have you? So I guess you've been able to monetize that as well, right? So
Yeah.
it's just
Yeah.
not just likes that you're getting. It's just not internet love that you're getting. You're getting some love and some coins as well in the process of that, which
Yes.
is
'Cause,
which is when it makes the most sense.
it does. And it turns out, especially on LinkedIn, a lot of people are not being themselves. So when you show up in your truth online,
Mhm.
it's super relatable. And
Right.
brands are looking for people like that.
Right, right. No, I think that that's true. I think we had this conversation too, where even with branding, people love to connect to the person and
Yes.
relatability. And here's one thing too. I know some people worry about the presentation, and it's not always about the presentation because someone could fall in love with your personality. Like,
I say this all the time. Like, you really don't, what you really want is for people to like who you are. And this is why I'm not a big proponent of niching down. I'm all over the place on social media. I'm a dancer. I'm a comedic writer. I'm a tech person in a car.
mhm,
I'm a leader who talks about lessons and failures in entrepreneurship. And but really, what you fall in love with is the fact that I'm all these different things and that I have a personality. Now, when I'm
right.
ready to sell something, you're just gonna want to support me.
Right, right. So that's a gem for our audience who is on social media. Sophia is just like a expert in this area, so I hope you're taking notes with all the things that we said. And like you said, as you grow and you learn, as someone grow and they love your personality, that's the person that they support. And two, I think one struggle too. Social media for so long had been luxury social media. Like, let me show you, my $10,000 water bottle, or,
Yeah.
or I'm wearing this purse, or let me rent this car for, content day so you can believe that I drive a car that I really don't own,
Yeah.
or I've even seen it to where people are sitting in these seats that looks like they're in a private jet, but
Hmm.
a prop. It's like a stage. You know what I mean? It's like a backdrop. So I was like,
Yeah.
wow, it's that serious out there. But
People took entrepreneurship to a whole nother level, creating
right,
companies to help you be fake on social media.
right. But one thing that I think that you do well, and I mean, you live a great life, but it's not about. What do you think? Do you think it's about all of the $10,000 water bottle?
Oh, hell no. You know how hard that is to keep up with? Those people
Right,
struggle to keep up that lifestyle. This is another reason why I think it's much better to go into this with being yourself.
right,
So it is easier to keep up with just being yourself and to create content when
right,
you don't feel pressure to
mhm,
maintain some type of lifestyle that you pretended to have. So
right,
you'll see me in my robe in some of my videos that I'm being funny in. You'll see me without makeup in some of my videos. But if I felt the pressure to always have to be glam, I wouldn't be able to put out as much content. So I am like my raw self most of the time in my content.
right. No, I think that that's excellent because, um, I think that's true. Sometimes you might have bedhead, but it's just like we're getting it just as it is, but that's what we love about it because we all have it. We all don't have the courage to film or to tell us what you're thinking in that moment when you wake up and want us to know, and we love being there with you during those times, and I think that that's very important. I'm happy that you mentioned that because there are so many people too that's looking to create their brand, and if they wait in the process of
Yeah.
perfection, if I once I get this new car or once I get a new apartment, once I do this, I'm going to start. That's not what it is, right? It's just start.
Oh, wow. I
We
gotta
actually
tell
love the
people.
process of growth.
I have to say, I started with an iPhone 5S a couple of years ago, and that was my excuse for a long time. I also didn't like how I sound on camera or how I looked. I feel like one eye is shorter than the other eye. Like I found all types of things,
Right,
flaws. But it really just requires, once you've accepted who you are, right? Practice. And even if you just take your phone and record videos, but don't post it anywhere, just so you could practice. It's like a muscle. You'll get more comfortable doing it. You'll figure out your style of speaking. You'll figure out if you like a script or not. You'll start to learn the different ways you can use your phone to edit videos because I do everything in my phone and I pay for no additional apps. Everything is native within the apps. And
okay,
after a while, you get that practice, and then you join some communities where people are talking about this kind of stuff, and you pick up on little YouTube videos on how to do it a little bit better. But still, it's just
right.
on your phone.
Right. No, I think that's excellent. I think that that's excellent advice. I think there's so many people that are just waiting to start and don't know how to start, don't know when to start, but just start. And it's not about the perfection. And actually, like I was saying before, we love the process of growth.
Yeah.
We love the process. There's someone that I've been watching her transformation. Like we love that. We love, going through the process with her from her before and after. So if that is your story, definitely just start. And then as a Black woman, that's identifying your voice, and being your true authentic self, it can be very rewarding because one thing for sure, when you are comfortable in opening your voice, there's so many gems that we just you're just dropping diamonds all over the place that someone needs to hear from you.
Yes.
Someone needs to see you, someone needs to hear from you, and there's no question that you're going to be dropping diamonds. And then also the seeds that you're going to plant and being your authentic self are priceless.
Yep.
The seeds that you're planting in other people's lives, or seeds that you're planting for even upcoming and future generations, like we need to see you, we need to hear you, be encouraged to just open up, so then that way there's other young Black women that needs this. And so I hope that we're all encouraged by this conversation. And then Sophia's saying some good things as well, like, hey, you can monetize this. This
Like, you can
beautiful,
actually
eloquent
monetize being
Black
yourself.
voice. You can make some, you can monetize it as well, because your voice and your content is also needed while you're building your brand, um, as well. Is there anything that you would like to add?
No, this has been a great conversation. Thank you so much for having me. This I can't wait to like listen and watch the replay of this actually, so I could take some notes from this conversation.
You've been dropping all the gems. I think, I'll tell you guys, Sophia is just wonderful. Like I said, I'm going to link her information down at the bottom. But she's just wonderful. Like I said, she has this spirit about her that she just kind of, it feels like a big sister, and so everyone just grows to love Sophia. So if you follow her content, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. And I'm happy to have this connection with you, even outside of your content.
Yeah.
She's been an excellent mentor, excellent coach, and just a lot of good support. So, thank you so much, Sophia, for being our guest. Is there any place that you want to name that the audience can
Yeah.
find you?
Yeah, I'm always encouraging people to build up their personal brand, especially on LinkedIn. So you
Right.
can find me on LinkedIn at Sophia Lovasz, or you
Okay.
can visit me online with simplyvisibility.com.
Okay, and then we'll put that information in the caption as well. Thank you guys so much for joining us here for another episode of Balance Her Hustle Live. And until next time, be encouraged and remember to create, grow, and enjoy success. Thank you.